Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, and sometimes in our country and around the world. In many of my videos, I talk about social, cultural dynamics that are definitely tearing down the moral and ethical fabric of our society. And there are tons of people that are filled with mental illness, opioid addiction, anxiety, stress, and sometimes the way we handle it and manage it can be detrimental not only to themselves, but sometimes they project that negative energy and ending up hurting others, including family members. And this is a very sad commentary straight out of Indiana, where a son despised his mother and has had mental issues, and he ended up murdering his own mother in their home where he lived with his mother. So let's go. This is a very sad story. Messy teenager, 19, is accused of strangling college administrator mother, 43 years old, to death after she served him an eviction notice for refusing to get a job and or clean his room. So he lived with his mother. She actually went through the legal system to get him evicted from the home unless he got a job, cleaned his room, and helped out around the house for her. Here we go. A 19-year-old Indiana man now faces decades in prison and questions about his mental health after he allegedly strangles his mother to death. Connor Kobold, 19, has been charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 on aggravated battery in connection with the death of his mother, 43-year-old Chanel Burns. On February 5th, police were sent to the home where Kobold and Burns lived in Valparaiso. This is in Indiana. Burns was found unresponsive and not breathing in the living room as Kobold shockingly confessed to strangling his mother. She was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. Kobold now faces mental health investigations over both his decision to represent himself at trial and the reason he allegedly killed his mother. So not only did he allegedly kill his mother, now he's going to represent himself as his own attorney, and he's 19 years old, and he's had a previous past of mental health issues. Things have become strained between mother and son to the point that she issued him with an eviction letter. She gave him 30 days to find a full-time job, clean his room, and help around the rest of the house. This is what is believed to have pushed Kobold over the edge. As Kobold attempts to be his own lawyer, Superior Court Judge Michael Fish called on a mental health professional to investigate his competency. I want Dr. Arnaud Popley to chime in on whether you're capable to represent yourself, Judge Fish said Friday. Judge Fish asked, I guess the most important thing out of the gate here is for me to make sure that you understand the penalty for murder is 45 to 65 years in prison. Do you understand that? Kobold said, yes, Your Honor, I do understand. Judge Fish also tried to explain to him the advantages and disadvantages of being your own attorney and the qualifications they usually have. He then asked, do you believe you have any skills or abilities that would help you represent yourself? Kobold responded, I believe my case is so unique that the only person who can explain what happened and why it happened is myself. Judge Fish asked Kobold about his educational background, his experience in a courtroom, and with public speaking. Kobold said he has a high school education, had done public speaking while in school, but had never been in a courtroom before. He then admitted that he had been in mental health facilities at least twice and gone through 5 different psychologists. So he's been in mental health facilities at least 2 times, and he has run through at least 5 psychologists. Kobold said that despite his challenges, he would not be affected in acting on his own behalf in court. He was then asked if he planned to enter a plea or go to trial in his first act as his attorney. He said, "Whatever I can do to help the court and the jury make the best decision about my situation," Kobold said. After being informed that he had to make that decision himself, he said he would negotiate with the state first. Judge Fish gave Kobold a waiver to represent himself pending what the doctor says about the defendant's mental health. If convicted on all 3 counts, Kobold faces anywhere between 45 and 84 years in prison and $20,000 in fines. So if he gets convicted on all 3 counts, Kobold faces anywhere between 45 and 84 years in prison and $20,000 in fines. A trial date is set for August the 6th of this year. Man, what a sad story. And I talk about this all the time, where some of the 7 or 8 pillars that are destroying our society today, undiagnosed mental health issues and or diagnosed and not properly managed mental health issues, the opioid crisis, homelessness, joblessness, gun violence, inept inner city public schools, and fatherless homes. This is another typical scenario of a young man and his mother, who are only 2 people that are living in the house. I don't know what his circumstances were with his father, and it doesn't sound like his mother had remarried, and that her and Kobold's father were even together, because Kobold was living there just with his mother, who was a college administrator. She loved her son. Her whole life was her son, as she stated in some previous, some of what her colleagues had said about the mother, that she loved her son. That was a shining light of her life. But her son evidently has been having some mental health issues, and maybe he didn't love his mother as much as she loved him. And he has allegedly been charged with strangling and killing his own mother. I talk about chaos and disruption throughout our cities and our states all the time, but in many of our homes, in the 4 walls of many homes in America, there's chaos and disruption taking place with family members, brothers and sisters, uncles, nephews. I've done several videos on stories. There was one out of Peoria, Illinois, where a young man had murdered at least 6 or 7 family members a year or 2 ago. This story is very similar to another story I did on a Florida young man who had been the valedictorian of his high school, and he was at the University of Florida in college as a pre-med student, wanting to become a doctor, to be a helper and a healer. And he came home one weekend from the University of Florida to visit his mother in another city in Florida, and he ended up stabbing his mother to death, and part of it was caught on their home camera, as far as him entering the home with a knife in his hand. And he said in his confession that he hated his mother and that she annoyed him. This sounds very similar to this case. And that case was out of Florida, where a son murdered his own mother. Fatherless home. This scenario, 19 years old Kobold strangles his mother to death. And just because we end up being blessed or unblessed to be in, we don't get to pick the family to be born into. Love is an action and a verb that has to be put in action and has to be seen and felt. Just someone telling you they love you and they don't show you that they love you, they probably don't love you. Love is an action and a verb. And in some of these circumstances, you have this son that ended up killing and strangling. How much more personal could that be? He strangles his mother to death. How much hatred and debauchery, how sick mentally has this young man have to be in order to kill the person that gave birth to him, his own mother? I don't know what their dynamics were, but it was not that serious. And for her wanting him to get a job, clean up, and start to become a man is something that every parent wants for their children. Same thing applies with the young man that I just told you from the University of Florida who came home one weekend and stabbed his mother to death. She was also an educator. So you have this young lady who was a college administrator, and Miss Chanel Burns, and the case in Florida, the mother was a teacher for over 20 years. So you have both of these young women, they're educators, they have these sons that are having a troubled past and history that maybe they were aware of, especially with Kobold. He had been in at least 2 mental health facilities and has ran through at least 5 psychologists. So his mother had to have some awareness of what was going on with her son, but I don't think she ever thought that her son would cross that line of life and inhumanity and kill her and strangle her and kill her. What a sad commentary. This is about a messy teen, 19 years old. He has his whole life in front of him. His mother is gone, allegedly strangled her with his own hands, and now he's looking at between 45 and 65 years in prison, and he wants to represent himself. So not only did he confess and commit the crime, now he's going to put the nail in the coffin by inadequately representing himself on a murder trial. Has never been to law school. This is the biggest situation and case of his life, and he's not even going to get the appropriate legal counsel to even defend his case. I think it's clear as day that he is mentally ill and needs all the ancillary services to help restore this young man to some level of positivity in life, even if he ends up getting convicted and spending the rest of his life in prison. This is not the right way to start out in your late teens, your early 20s, when you have the rest of your life in front of you. Now his mother is gone, his biggest advocate, his biggest marketer, the biggest person that wanted to see him be successful in life, and then he ended up taking her life and has destroyed his own. Tell me what you think about this case on Connor Kobold, 19 years old, who has allegedly been accused of strangling his 43-year-old college administrator mother, Miss Chanel Burns. What a sad story. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.